back to my channel, The Grim Reader. I am Kathy Grimm, and I'm here today with a library, Friends of the Library book haul. So they had their sale, and I picked up a few things on this beautiful Friday evening that I wanted to show you. Just sort of a random selection of goodies that didn't cost very much, and they're, I won't say that much about them. Some of them are just kind of like experimental. I mean, in terms of whether I will like them or not. Let's start off with a book that I think I had a copy of a while ago, but for me, this is sort of, I remember actually kind of liking this book. It's self-help of this sort of thing that was very popular. I think this person, Peck, was also, I think I remember seeing him on the Oprah show, the Oprah Winfrey show. But I do remember enjoying this one, and I kind of wanted to dip into it to just see how it holds up. And I don't think this is a book I'll read cover to cover, but one that I did want to have on my shelves, and for 50 cents, why not? It's in pretty good shape, and yeah. They're just such a wonderful thing, these library sales, where we can pick up things for cheap. So this is a Muriel Spark, Loitering with Intent, and I think it's the only one I've read of hers, which was good, but it didn't sort of knock my socks off completely. It was the one about people calling older people, what was it called? Memento Mori, I think. I think that's the one that I remember reading of hers. Memento Mori, exactly. And it was good, but it wasn't, I don't know. I didn't want any of the characters, and I don't think we were meant to. It was sort of almost a satire, I guess, or parody. Anyway, but I thought this looked good and interesting, and I'll have to see where it fits in with her. So tell me if you've read it. I know Adam from Memento Mori loves Muriel Spark, so I thought I would pick this up and try another one of hers. This is actually not in the greatest shape, but I was very excited to get a copy of the collected short stories of Bowen. Now, I just discovered her over the summer in Germany. I read Friends and Relations, and I thought it was exquisite. I just loved her style. Now, she's very literary. She's sort of, it's not really, in that sense, it's not sort of comforting. Like the other book I just read, the Susan Scarlett, which was delightful, but of just a different type of novel, even though actually not that different time-wise, but she's more literary. She's doing something stylistically that is, quite good. I mean, sort of more adventurous, I guess, than the Scarlet. And they all have their place, and for me, everything is good. So I'm excited to have a copy of her stories, and so maybe I'll get started on a short story of hers. Now this one, I hope I don't have a copy of this, but I'm pretty sure I don't. Oh, I do. Well, there you go. Now I have two. Oh, God. I forgot that I had got a copy. I had a nice copy of this from the Oxford, so now I have another copy. Oh gosh. Well, it's fine. It's fine to have two copies of Old Gurion. I better read it right. I have not read. The only other Balzac I've read is Cousin Pons. It was a while ago. It was one of my first sort of group endeavors, and it was a little intimidating. It was a Foxer group with Brian in the lead, and the Voxer thing kind of scares me, because you don't have a way to sort of, it just goes right out into the ether the minute you say something. I guess you can use the text function. Oh well, so now I have two copies of Old Goriot. Doesn't matter. This is a book that I also probably won't read cover to cover, but I did want to have a copy of it on my shelf. The Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. Now, I know about it because I took classes on political science back in the day in Germany. I know a little bit about it, not very much. It's, a very important work of history. It's about the Peloponnesian War. One of the first and one of the very greatest of the translators of Thucydides was philosopher Thomas Hobbes. See, I already learned something. I did not know that. I read Leviathan, probably not from cover to cover, but I have written papers on the Leviathan because it was part of studying English at the German university. So yeah, like in a way, it's sort of interesting to read the introduction of this and then maybe get started on some of it. We'll see. Yeah, but I did want, I think, and it is in a nice condition. It's one of these beautiful traditional old-timey penguins in good condition. And you never know when it might pop up somewhere and you might want to reference it or something and have a look-see and have a look at it on your shelf. So, have you read this? It might be in some people's Western canon. It's not going to be in my Western canon because I haven't read it. Another one I haven't read, although I thought I'd sort of dipped into it, but I guess I haven't, is this, seminal work of literary criticism, lit crit people, if you study comparative literature. So, as I recall, he wrote it under strange circumstances, like he was away from his library and it's kind of all just shot from his head, which is pretty amazing. So it's chapters on all kinds of people, and it's sort of close readings. And it really is supposed to be what it says here. It's about how fiction represents reality, apparently. And that's all I can say about it. I do want to, like there's chapters on Stendhal, I think. I think it's Redder Than Black. There's a chapter on Virginia Woolf. There's a chapter on lots of early sort of earlier works. I haven't figured out what it's all on. Gargantuan, Gargantuan and whatever that one's called, Adam and Eve, so the Bible. So yeah, I want to have this on my shelf so I can dip into it at some point. Rabelais, that's who I'm thinking of. Rabelais. I have not read Rabelais. Anyway, I wanted to have, and it's a good copy for 50 cents. Come on, that's just a good deal. Unmarked completely. Can't beat it. Moving on to Pushkin, 50 cents copy of Eugene Onegin, and a work I have not read. And I have another one by Pushkin, not this one though, and it's in a different edition. So I wanted to get a copy of this to read. Oh, it's a poem. Did I know that? I didn't know this. It's a verse novel. Okay. I'm sorry I didn't know this. Anyway, I'll give it a go at some point. In Eugene Onegin, Pushkin gave us a verse novel so consummately brilliant that it seems to have been born rather than made. Okay. Well, now I have a copy of it. I'll have to see what the other Pushkin I have on my shelf. I don't think that's verse. I think it's a novel. This is a very nice dual language edition of Kafka's short stories. Now, Kafka probably would be on my canon if I ever do that tag about the Western canon. And it's really nice how it has the German on one side and the English on the other. So any of you out there who are sort of trying to learn the language or want to kind of read along and see what the German looks like, if you look at Metamorphoses, the first line of that one is als Gregor Samsa aus unruhigen Träumen aufwachte. I found it. Als Gregor Samsa eines Morgens aus unruhigen Träumen erwachte, fand er sich in seinem Bett zu einem ungeheuren Ungeziefer verwandelt. So you have the nice alliteration of ungeheuren Ungeziefer. And of course in English it's, when Gregor Samsa awoke from troubled dreams one morning, he found that he had been transformed in his bed into an enormous bug. And see, Ungeziefer is much more sort of, it's almost like vermin, or like it has that negative prefix of, there's words in English that are more sort of descriptive than bug, which is what he is. There's sort of debate as to, is he a giant cockroach? What kind of bug is he? But anyway, it's just nice to have a dual language copy for kind of consulting how they've handled the translation. I don't know how many there are in there, but some of them. He wrote more than this, but nice edition. It's like in perfect shape. 50 cents. Next up, we have a fascinating book that could be like a contender for a nonfiction November. So it is nonfiction. The Hare with the Amber Eyes by Edmond Duval. And this is one that was kind of on my radar because I just thought it sounded so cool. And it's all about this family, banking family, as rich and respected as the Rothschilds, who were very, very influential in the 19th century. And they passed down through generations 264 wood and ivory carvings, none of them larger than a matchbox. Wow, I hope there's a picture of them somewhere. Yeah, I think there might be. Or at some point I'll find pictures of them. And so this guy, Edwin Duval, he's the 5th generation to inherit the small and exquisite collection of netsuke. It's Japanese, netsuke. Drunken monks, almost ripe plums, snarling tigers. And so it's sort of a collectible, sort of a collection of ceramics. And he uses, this stuff as a way to get into this family and their fate. And apparently the main collector was the model for Swann in Swann's Wave. So Marcel Proust studied Charles closely enough to use him as a model for the aesthete and lover Swann in the remembrance of things past. And his own porcelain has been displayed in many museums. He's an artist. He's a professor of ceramics at the University of Westminster and lives in England and studied at Cambridge. So it's sort of one of these interesting, all over the place stories, history, art, stuff like that. So I thought it looked, and I'd have vague memories of seeing it and being interested in it. So I thought I would pick it up because, it's a good bargain. The last two things are kind of odd, and it is getting rather dark in here. I apologize, but I think we're still okay with light. So comfort read, maybe. I have never read any Rosamund Pilcher, who I think Gina likes her a lot. And so this is Winter Solstice. It's a really big book. I mean, just big in terms of height. But so I envision myself curling up on a cold day around Christmas time in my cozy blanket with my cup of coffee or my latte or whatever I'm drinking, and just kind of falling into this book and hopefully finding it readable. I think it will be readable. Now, I know that she's very popular in Germany and that they've made a lot of TV shows of her works. And they, I don't know, they're always a little bit, I don't know. But I decided, what the heck, for 50 cents or $1 for the big books, big hardcover books, I would try this one and see what I think. Because, I'm especially now when I'm busy, and I'm noticing how I've had a sort of mild epiphany about how, because of my physical stuff, I can't really, or I don't feel, it doesn't make me happy to read the really dark stuff sometimes. Just a stupid example, but a valid one for me. The show on Netflix that's come up, the new show about Jeffrey Dahmer, I'm not going to watch that because it will just make me sad. And it's just kind of a silly thing to talk about. But I was even talking about it with my fairy tale class, because we talk about dark themes in fairy tales, because the new rubric is dysfunctional families. And I can sort of tell that because they're young, there is an age component here too, that I'm much more I have to be wary about what kind of media I consume, because it affects my mental health or my more like a mood thing. And I could sort of tell that sometimes I'm so interested in a subject that even if it's dark, I still keep going, and then it's that's not good either. And I could just tell that, I think partly because I know he really did stuff, that's kind of why I don't want to go there. And maybe especially not in a show that's meant for entertainment or consumption, I don't know if you understand what I'm getting at, but and I'm still interested in sort of the dark stuff. I mean, I do explore it to a certain degree, but I don't know. I'm also kind of fine with just doing comfort stuff, comfort reads now and then. Last but not least, I got a French book. But look how pretty it is. So my French is still rather rudimentary, but I do know that this is the life of children in the Middle Ages. And I'm trying to read the back here. I'm already sort of struggling with trying to understand what's going on. But not only is it I think it's a kid's book, or I think it is, or at least it's sort of got pretty pictures. En famille. au début du Moyen Âge, les enfants vivant dans un grand house, they lived in a big family that was made up of father, mother, grandparents, uncles. Tout le monde est réuni sous l'autorité. Everyone was united under the authority of the father until he died. And then something about the maternal uncle. This situation. Okay, so yeah, see, I can sort of get it. It's not that hard. It's easy French. It's not Flaubert in French. Or Proust, for that matter. Plus, I do love the pictures. I mean, these are just fantastic. I mean, and then, you know, what sometimes I do, although I sometimes have a hard time, is if there's a really cool picture and I want to, like, put it in my journal or something, I'll cut it out. Because, you know, this was a book that cost $1 at the most. And if I want to see a picture or use it for something, I might cut it out. I think this would be a good way for me to learn French and something about the Middle Ages. I don't even know what's going on in this picture, but I think it looks super cool. I love it. And so I got this French book. Yeah, that's my little haul. I have a number of videos planned for Victober, but the main one will be my eclectic Victober list, which I'll do hopefully tomorrow, and which will include some sort of pointing to the antipodes. So specifically Australia and New Zealand. My connections. I mean, I grew up in Australia, and my mother was a New Zealander, were her parents. And then at some point on one side, it goes way back. It's all Maori, and then on the other side, it fairly quickly goes to Tasmania and Ireland. So yeah, but anyway, so that's going to be my Victober. I'm going to sort of explain why I think at least Australia and New Zealand, it's interesting to think about them and their histories a little bit in the context of Victorian times and literature. So yeah, that'll come very soon. Yeah, this is rather all over the place and eclectic, but I hope it's somewhat enjoyable. Tell me if you have any interest in any of these books, if you've read them, what you thought, and I will speak to you very soon. Have a wonderful weekend and evening, and bye-bye.